Kingdom. And so since 1955, Scotland has not voted Conservative, yet the majority of that time, Scotland has been governed by Conservative prime ministers. And so there's these people here, even folks who support independence and even many who don't, just aren't down with Conservative governance, and they have been particularly riled in the last, I would say, decade, a little less than that, by the austerity programs that you've seen coming out of London, all the cuts to healthcare, all the cuts to education. So I think that took that push to cause people to decide to try and go for independence.
That's fascinating. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So how's the vote going to play out? How's the vote going to play out?
It's very, brother. The polls have showed the yes vote ahead, and they've showed the no ahead. We've come right toward the election. We have seen polls saying 51-40. I think it's fair to say that the polling right now would suggest a narrow no vote, which would keep them in the United Kingdom. But here's what nobody quite can calculate. They have had the most massive increase in voter registration in the history of Scotland. Do you know what their registration rate is?
What?
97%.
Come on, really?
97%.
Holy
they are expecting
compared to the United States, which is like what?
Well, in the U.S., we're lucky in a presidential race to get a little over 50% turnout.
Yeah, right.
And they're looking here at 80 to 90% turnout.
Holy crap.
They also expanded the electorate to 16 and 17-year-olds because it's their future at stake. And so you have all these new voters coming. And one thing that pollsters say again and again is they're not exactly sure how to poll this thing. They've never dealt with an electorate so big.
Wow. That's a crazy story. We're going to be following it. So when are we going to know? When are we going to get the results?
Well, they also, I got to tell you, Scotland is what democracy looks like. Yeah. They start voting at 7 a.m. They don't finish until 10 at night. They have long voting hours, packed polling places. It's easy to vote, but there are big lines. And I think they will learn. You probably won't have a formal announcement of the result until early tomorrow morning Scottish time.
Oh, wow.
And so when you come on the air tomorrow, we should have a result.
We should know. All right. Well, we'll talk about it when we go on the air tomorrow. John, I appreciate it, buddy. Thanks so much for being with us.
Total pleasure, my friend. Keep strong.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. All right, that's John Nichols live in Edinburgh. Good stuff, man. We're going to keep on top of that. It's the Bill Press Show. My name is Peter Ogburn. Sitting in for Bill. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, friends and neighbors, take a little time out now for just a word about Free Speech TV, how important it is, and how much we depend on your help. You know, I hate to tell you this, but I've been around this radio and television business for a long time now, starting out with KABC TV in Los Angeles and KABC Talk Radio, moving on the radio front over to KFI Radio, and on TV over to KCOP Radio, and then bouncing back here to Washington, D.C., 6 years on CNN at Crossfire, and then a couple of years at MSNBC with Pat Buchanan on Buchanan and Press, and then Current TV, of course, covering and carrying our nationally syndicated radio show on a simulcast. But I got to tell you, with all of those different great organizations I've worked for, I have never felt that so totally free and so totally independent in terms of broadcasting the news of the day as I do here on Free Speech TV, because Free Speech TV, that's what it is. I mean, it's a progressive voice channel, 24/7, totally independent. As you know, no government funding and no corporate funding and no big donor pressure at all. Totally independent. And how do we do it? Well, that's thanks to you and to your support. We couldn't do without it. And that's why we turn to you once or twice a year to ask you to first of all, to thank you for being so generous, and then to ask you to help out again as much as you can. And some premiums that we can offer this time around. maybe to make it more attractive for you to dig in and help us out. If you can help us with just $10 a month, $120 a year, we'll send you a Bill Press mug and a pound of coffee. For $240, that mug, that coffee, and a French press. That's just $20 a month. For $30 a month, $360 a year, a mug, a coffee, the French press, and you'll participate in what we're calling Voices of the People. You and I will have a 5-minute phone conversation about whatever issue you want to talk about or issues you want to talk about, and we'll put all those together and we'll air them on our show as Voices of the People. You can be part of that. And if somehow you can make your way to Washington, D.C. and send $1,000 to Free Speech TV, make your way to Washington, Carol and I will take you out to dinner and bring you into the studio the next morning to watch the show. However, whatever level you can help out, please give us a call at 877-378-8669 or go to the website freespeech.org. Help as much as you can, and thank you for being so generous and allowing us to do a great job with you every day.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is the Bill Press Show. My name is Peter Ogburn. I'm sitting in for Bill Press today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Good news if you're listening to this and you wanted to watch the show. The worst American company that I've ever dealt with, Schmom Schmast. I'm not going to name their name. Schmom Schmast. They've got our internet back up and running. So the video stream is back up. So if you're listening, good for you. If you want to watch, do it. Just go to TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR-TV. And we are live streaming video. You're going to want to do that because we've got some in-studio guests coming up, including Sarah Mims from the National Journal. She's up next. My name is Peter Ogburn. Sitting in for Bill. Quick break, and then we will be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, friends and neighbors, take a little time out now to for just a word about Free Speech TV, how important it is, and how much we depend on your help. You know, I hate to tell you this, but I've been around this radio and television business for a long time now, starting out with KABC TV in Los Angeles and KABC Talk Radio, moving on the radio front over to KFI Radio, and on TV over to KCOP Radio, and then bouncing back here to Washington, D.C., 6 years on CNN at Crossfire, and then a couple of years at MSNBC with Pat Buchanan on Buchanan and Press, and then Current TV, of course, covering and carrying our nationally syndicated radio show on a simulcast. But I got to tell you, with all of those different great organizations I've worked for, I have never felt that so totally free and so totally independent in terms of broadcasting the news of the day as I do here on Free Speech TV, because Free Speech TV, that's what it is. I mean, it's a progressive voice channel, 24/7, totally independent. As you know, no government funding and no corporate funding and no big donor pressure at all. Totally independent. And how do we do it? Well, that's thanks to you and to your support. We couldn't do without it. And that's why we turn to you once or twice a year to ask you to first of all, to thank you for being so generous, and then to ask you to help out again as much as you can. And there's some premiums that we can offer this time around, maybe to make it more attractive for you to dig in and help us out. If you can help us with just $10 a month, $120 a year, we'll send you a Bill Press mug and a pound of coffee. For $240, that mug, that coffee, and a French press. That's just $20 a month. For $30 a month, $360 a year, a mug, a coffee, the French press, and you'll participate in what we're calling Voices of the People. You and I will have a 5-minute phone conversation about whatever issue you want to talk about or issues you want to talk about, and we'll put all those together and we'll air them on our show as voices of the people. You can be part of that. And if somehow you can make your way to Washington, D.C. and send $1,000 to Free Speech TV, make your way to Washington, Carol and I will take you out to dinner and bring you into the studio the next morning to watch the show. However, whatever level you can help out, please give us a call at 877-378-8669 or go to the website freespeech.org. Help as much as you can, and thank you for being so generous and allowing us to do a great job with you every day.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
What gets you to college? Good SAT scores? High GPA? Lots of extracurriculars?
Need?
If you don't have the cash, you'll need a loan.
And we mean huge student loans because the cost of college has risen 1,000% in the last 30 years.
This means big money for the banks that collect fees and interest.
Now, millions of young people are starting their adult lives with an average of $29,000 of loans on their backs.
Altogether, we're talking $1.2 trillion in student debt.
And more people are finding it impossible to pay them back. Welcome to the student debt crisis.
The increasing demand for higher education and cuts to state funding gave colleges a huge incentive to keep inflating prices.
I graduated about a year ago, currently in $35,000 of debt.
I am in debt about like $25,000.
I owe $23,000.
I owe over $50,000 in student loans.
38.8 million Americans owe money on a student loan. And the biggest names in banking are making huge profits off the booming student loan industry. Sallie Mae, the largest provider of private student loans, made $949 million last year.
They only give you about 6 months to look for a job. You have to start paying back the loan. It's very pressuring, especially nowadays. It's very hard to find a job.
Over half of the students graduating in 2012 could not find a decent paying job.
They either had low-wage jobs or unpaid internships or were unemployed altogether.
So you can't make the payments. You start incurring late fees, which makes the loan even harder to pay off.
And it stays with you for years, even decades.
Right now, a third of the people who started repaying their loans are delinquent or in default.
That's 13.7 million people, more than the populations of Chicago, New York, and San Francisco combined.
Worse, it's not just the borrowers who are in trouble. Many loans require co-signers.
So if the student is unable to pay, that co-signer, a father, a mother, or a grandparent, is now on the hook.
Even a grandparent's Social Security benefits can be garnished to pay the loan.
We should have an answer to this. If you get really behind in your car payment or your credit cards, you can file for bankruptcy.
But Congress has made it nearly impossible to discharge student loans through bankruptcy.
Big institutions make big profits while students try to make ends meet under crushing debt.
Is this how we want our education system to work?
The whole point of going to college is to get the career you want, but lately I've been discouraged because no one can afford school. You get a job just to pay off your student loans.
We need higher education, not higher debt.
Sign up to end the student debt crisis at highered.debt.org.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is the Bill Press Show live on your radio, on your smartphone. We're on the Progressive Voices channel on the TuneIn app. We're on iHeartRadio. And now we're back live on the video stream, youtube.com/TawkrTV, TawkrTV. It's been a morning. It's been a morning. My name is Peter Ogburn. I'm sitting in for Bill Press today. The reason I'm sitting in for Bill Press today, by the way, I just did the introduction. Sarah Mims, staff correspondent from National Journal. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Always love having you in. Always good stuff. You happen to come in the middle of like an apocalypse.
That's what I understand.
It's been crazy here this morning. So I got a text from Bill. He's not feeling well, so I have to host. By the way, I'm going out of town like right after the show today, so I was fully prepared to coast today. And I know that Bill is still probably in bed, and I hope he's not watching. And if you are, it's all a joke, boss. JK. But I was so ready to just lay back in the cut right over there, hang out, not say much. No, you're hosting. Good morning. So then I come in, we got no internet.
Yeah.
We found out when you got here, the elevator was down, so you had to come up the stairs. I'm sorry.
It's all right. They fixed the elevator, so I got to take it. Yep.
All right. See? So one step at a time.
One win.
One win. Thank you very much for coming in.
Sure.
Running the board this morning is Elisa Murphy in there. Elisa still running on her iOS, 6 now? You still
I know. I need to work up my game.
Little phone shaming going on here. It's okay.
Good morning.
Good morning. Our phone number is 866-55-PRESS. 866-557-7377. If you call that number, the voice you will hear is that of Alicia Cruz, standing by to take your calls. Good morning, Alicia. And Cyprian Bowling doing the video operations, who basically had an hour off last hour because we weren't even on because we had no internet. But we're back. So now we're going to put him to work. Thank you for being here, Cyprian. All good stuff. See, Bill was giving us grief because like last week, a couple people were out. He was giving everybody some hell for having 4-day work weeks. Now look.
Now he's got it.
Now look at it.
He's got the
4 weeks.
I hope he doesn't make it a 3-day work week.
Look, you know what? I'm not going to be here tomorrow. So if Bill is sick, my name is Paul, and this is between y'all. All right? Nice. I'm Fred Flintstoning out of here, and y'all can figure it out. All right?
You can just grab some guy off the street.
Yeah.
It's not a problem.
Yeah, there are people now that have plenty of things to say. I'm sure it'd be fine. Hey, I want to play this clip because Jay Carney, who is no longer in the role of White House press secretary, he was asked about the worst question he ever got at a press briefing. And he actually had an answer. He knew which one it was. And it was a question from Lester Kinsolving, who I don't think goes there anymore. In fact, I know he doesn't go there anymore. But he had this question a couple of years ago. You can hear his question, then Carney's response.
Supported a 93-7 U.S. Senate vote to approve a defense authorization bill that, quote, includes a provision which not only repeals the military law on sodomy, but also repeals the military ban on sex with animals or bestiality. Does the commander-in-chief approve or disapprove of bestiality in our armed forces?
I don't have any comments on that. Let me get another
Does the president believe
Let's get to something more
be
serious.
approved
Yes,
by all animal support groups?
I've learned my lesson.
Yeah. Good question. He also, a couple of years ago, Les Kinsolving, it was after the Academy Awards where Brokeback Mountain was nominated for a bunch of things. He said, did the president stay up to watch the Academy Awards of sodomy?
Oh, my goodness.
Wow. Quite a question.
Yeah.
Not sure I would have wanted to take that one either.
No, I don't want to field that.
Sticks with you, poor Jake Carney.
Yeah. He clearly hasn't forgotten that one. All right, so Sarah Mims, we brought you in to talk about the march to war. We're going to war again, it looks like.
I mean, that's what we're not calling it for now.
I know,
Yeah.
but...
the House voted yesterday to authorize the White House, the administration, to arm and train Syrian rebels. The Senate's going to vote on it this afternoon. Looks like that is going to pass in the Senate just as easily as it did in the House. And then, but the bigger conversation of, are we going to war? How involved are we getting here? Are there going to be ground troops? Congress is pushing that off until after the election. They'll be back on November 12th when they might consider an authorization for the use of military force. But they're definitely going to have to pass the defense budget, so those conversations are going to be coming up.
This whole thing is sort of fascinating to me because it was not that long ago, less than a year ago, that we had this whole conflict with Syria. We were going to go and we were going to do air missions and airstrikes in Syria. And the outcry from politicians and from people, voters, were like, no more war. No more war. Not even airstrikes. No boots. We knew there were no boots on the ground. Even that, still not okay. We don't want to do it. And now it seems to be the drumbeat is we've got to go there. We've got to do something. Why is this such a threat in the eyes of Congress?
Well, I think because it seems to be a threat in the eyes of the American people. You look at the polling, and folks are fairly supportive of at least the actions that President Obama is talking about making now, the airstrikes and arming Syrian rebels. Gallup had a poll that showed something like 60% of the American public supports that. So that's given Congress some leeway to consider this. I think ISIS scared a lot of people. Even though the administration is saying, there is no imminent threat to the United States from this group, the feeling on the ground is that this is a very scary group of people and someone we need to deal with.
So I want to play a couple of clips from yesterday because John Kerry was talking about arming the rebels and how the vote was going to play out. Here's what John Kerry said yesterday.
I'm asking, do it. Pass it. We'd love to have you do it. But we're not going to get stuck in the situation when we have the authority of not exercising our authority to do what we believe we need to do to protect the country.
So they took the vote and voted to arm the Syrian rebels, arm and train them. The vote was 273 to 156. How did that break out among party lines? Do you know?
That's really interesting. The nay votes you ended up, but this is just on the amendment to deal with arming and training Syrian rebels. This was not for the continuing resolution that it ended up being attached to.
Okay.
But for those no votes, you ended up with a really strange coalition of Tea Party conservatives like Justin Amash and Thomas Massey, and then folks like Chris Van Hollen, like tried and blue Democrats, voting together and saying, I'm not sure that this is what we should be doing. A lot of Republicans are concerned about Obama's overall strategy, about the cost of this. Democrats are more concerned about how are we vetting these rebels.
Which is by the way, all valid questions.
Absolutely.
All valid questions and concerns. I'm not the first person to say it. Elisa, let's play that clip from the president when he was talking about what the strategy is going to be.
We'll use our air power. We will train and equip our partners. We will advise them and we will assist them. We will lead a broad coalition of countries who have a stake in this fight, because this is not simply America versus ISIL. This is the people of the region fighting against ISIL. It is the world rejecting the brutality of ISIL.
Okay, so training our partners, broad coalition. This all sounds a lot like the Iraq War with George W. Bush. I'm not saying that this is the same thing. I'm just saying it has echoes of that. We'll stand down when they stand up, right? We're going to train them.
Sure.
And then we'll stand up. Coalition of the willing, broad coalition of our partners. It does sort of give me that,
right.
Like
Well,
I think I've heard this before.
Yeah, you have a lot of Democrats, especially people who were around for the Iraq War authorization in 2002, saying that this legislation that the House voted on yesterday, the Senate's voting on today, is so narrow that they feel comfortable supporting it. It expires on December 11th. It does not allow for any combat troops on the ground. It's just airstrikes. So they feel comfortable voting for that. The broader conversation that we're having about what happens when this expires and what extra steps are we going to take, that's very concerning to a lot of people. You have a lot of people saying, we're going to have a conversation about this when we return, and it's going to be pretty ugly.
Yeah. So what's the next step then? I mentioned, you mentioned that the Senate is gonna vote on this. Where does the AUMF, the authorized use of military force, where does that factor into this whole equation? Is that something that the White House feels that they can use that to go back into this, or are they going to have to get some sort of approval?
The White House has said that they're supportive of an AUMF if Congress wants to bring one up. Senator Bob Menendez, a Democrat, and he runs the Armed Services Committee. He was saying that he's going to, Foreign Relations, he's going to bring this up when they return. His committee has already started looking at this, starting to draft something. And you have members on both sides of the aisle saying, we're not doing anything else in Iraq or Syria until we have this discussion.
What has the reaction been to the fact that the president talked about repealing AUMF like a year ago? Mm-hmm. Clearly wasn't a big fan. He's on record. I mean, we played the tape earlier this week of him saying he looks forward to repealing it, but now all of a sudden, not so much. We have to point that out. I know people get mad at us. So these facts do get in the way of being a progressive show, right? But like it happened.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what's their tack going to be on that?
Honestly, I mean, you don't hear a lot of that in the halls of Congress. I think they're very happy to be able to take some kind of stand to be able to say, well, we authorized the president to do this before he went ahead and did it anyway. They're very excited by the prospect. I mean, Republicans and Democrats, that President Obama is now saying, if you want to do an AUMF, let's have that discussion.
All right. Okay. All right. Let's take a quick break. At least we're going to go to break here. Lots more coming up with National Journal Sarah Mims, who's been very patient with all of our issues today. So thank you very much for that. My name is Peter Ogburn. I am sitting in for Bill Press today. Follow Sarah Mims on Twitter at Sarah M. Mims. That's 2 M's in front of Mims and 2 M's the end of Mims, right?
Yes.
So Sarah M. Mims.
Exactly.
And online at nationaljournal.com. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Hey, friends and neighbors, take a little time out now for just a word about Free Speech TV, how important it is, and how much we depend on your help. I hate to tell you this, but I've been around this radio and television business for a long time now, starting out with KABC TV in Los Angeles and KABC Talk Radio, moving on the radio front over to KFI Radio, and on TV over to KCOP Radio, and then bouncing back here to Washington, D.C., 6 years on CNN at Crossfire, and then a couple of years at MSNBC with Pat Buchanan on Buchanan and Press, and then Current TV, of course, covering and carrying our nationally syndicated radio show on a simulcast. But I got to tell you, with all of those different great organizations I've worked for, I have never felt that so totally free and so totally independent in terms of broadcasting the news of the day as I do here on Free Speech TV, because Free Speech TV, that's what it is. I mean, it's a progressive voice channel, 24/7, totally independent. As you know, no government funding and no corporate funding and no big donor pressure at all. Totally independent. And how do we do it? Well, that's thanks to you and to your support. We couldn't do without it. And that's why we turn to you once or twice a year to ask you to first of all, to thank you for being so generous, and then to ask you to help out again as much as you can. And there's some premiums that we can offer this time around, maybe to make it more attractive for you to dig in and help us out. If you can help us with just $10 a month, $120 a year, we'll send you a Bill Press mug and a pound of coffee. For $240, that mug, that coffee, and a French press. That's just $20 a month. For $30 a month, $360 a year, a mug, a coffee, the French press, and you'll participate in what we're calling Voices of the People. You and I will have a 5-minute phone conversation about whatever issue you want to talk about or issues you want to talk about, and we'll put all those together and we'll air them on our show as Voices of the People. You can be part of that. And if somehow you can make your way to Washington, D.C. and send $1,000 to Free Speech TV, make your way to Washington, Carol and I will take you out to dinner and bring you into the studio the next morning to watch the show. However, whatever level you can help out, please give us a call at 877-378-8669 or go to the website freespeech.org. Help as much as you can, and thank you for being so generous and allowing us to do a great job with you every day.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Yes, it is The Bill Press Show. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. It's been quite a morning. I'm glad you are there along for the ride on this Thursday, September 18th. Doing what I can. You can follow the show on Twitter at BP Show, at BP Show. You can follow me on Twitter at Peter Ogburn. I wouldn't follow me, though, if I were you, frankly. And you can follow our guest, Sarah Mims from the National Journal, at Sarah M. Mims. 2 M's at the front and back of Mims. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So one of the things we were talking about during the break is the congressional picnic was last night.
Yeah.
Oh, to be a fly on the wall. Wouldn't that have been fun?
I'm always sad that reporters don't get to just attend it more broadly. I mean, the pool gets to go and they get sort of cordoned off, but I just love the idea of every member of Congress being stuck in like one lawn area.
Yes.
With the president. I just want to walk around.
We've all been to like those awkward parties, right? Where you just kind of like, I don't know anybody.
Yeah.
You know? And when you're all members of Congress and you're at the White House, oh, that would be just so delicious
fantastic.
to watch.
Yeah, I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I would totally watch that. And we were also, I wanted to talk to you about how the vote to arm the rebels, the vote to go to war, as I'm calling it, how that's playing into the elections. Because, you know, there is this whole midterm election thing happening. And some of these, very soon. And some of these seats are very vulnerable. How is that factoring into their vote and their business as they go about this?
Yeah, what's really interesting is you talk to midterm Democrats about this issue. Folks like Mark Pryor in Arkansas, Mary Landrieu in Louisiana, Kay Hagan in North Carolina. The vast majority of them, people who are really vulnerable this cycle, they're going ahead with the president's plan. They're talking about some concerns. I talked to Mark Pryor the other day, and he said he's very concerned that when we arm these rebels, they could end up being the enemy that we fight against. He is definitely concerned about that. But when I asked him, so are you going to vote for this? He said, probably yes. Yeah.
All right.
Again, you end up in that situation where they feel like this is so narrowly tailored.
Mm-hmm.
It's only for a couple of months that they feel like they can give him this authority now and then come back in November or December and say, how did this work? The only really vulnerable Democrat who's talking about voting against this is Mark Begich in Alaska. He's from a very different state from a lot of these folks. This is deep red. Alaska's got a huge veteran population, and he's saying, we've spent a lot of money on this war already. I'm not sure that we need to spend any more.
Yeah, I do think that when you, and we're bringing up a lot of comparisons to Bush and the Iraq situation, I do think that exit strategy is a word it's a phrase I also don't really want to use, but I do think that there's a clearer sort of, okay, get in, get out. It's not like we're going to go there, we're going to send a bunch of troops there, we're going to set up an establishment there, we're going to fight this until it's done. It's kind of like we're going to get in, and then we're going to get out. And I think that Barack Obama can't get into one of those situations where it's going to go on and on and on. But we did hear that it's going to take like a year to get these Syrian rebels and get these people trained.
Mm-hmm.
So a year just for the training, it's going to be going on during the next presidential election. It's going to be happening. So whether or not we can handle that is yet to be seen.
Right.
But it's going to be happening.
Yeah, and the language that the president's used to talk about this does make it sound like it's going to be a very long, drawn-out, protracted exercise. I think what comforts some members, especially vulnerable Democrats, is that their piece of this only lasts until December. And then they get to have that longer conversation about where is the exit strategy and what is our larger plan, which is a question that a lot of them say hasn't been answered.
Oh, okay. That's fair. Speaking of the midterms, how are these incumbents, how are they handling the whole tie to Barack Obama? Is he campaigning for anybody? Has anybody called for him to come and campaign for them?
I mean,
I haven't seen a lot.
Some of the more vulnerable members, no. At the same time, you do see, and this really shocked me, Mary Landrieu and Mark Pryor, really tough races, really tough states for Democrats, both of them talking about Obamacare in a really positive way, saying, this is a great law, we approve of it. Mary Landrieu wrote an op-ed almost a year ago talking about the benefits of the Affordable Care Act, not something I expected to see out of her.
Wow.
Mark Pryor's running an ad with his dad talking about the health care law. They're definitely walking a fine line there of trying not to get too close to the president, but they're not running away from him either.
I thought it was telling in that the latest Allison Lundergan Grimes ad in Kentucky. It's one of the big lines that came out of it was, "I'm not Barack Obama."
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, we get it. But it's also like in a place like Kentucky where, their version of Obamacare, their local version of it, has been extremely successful. People love it.
Right.
So I think you can sort of have it both ways a little bit.
And she has a popular Democratic governor, Steve Beshear, who has been supporting the law very heavily, been traveling the country talking about its benefits. My favorite line of her ad was, Mitch, this isn't how you hold a gun, as she holds a rifle in the
air. I love that she used that photo of Mitch McConnell at CPAC. He's holding a rifle up in the air the way that I would hold a live rattlesnake. So uncomfortable. This is not something that I like doing. This is terrifying to me.
One-handed, yeah.
All right, so 20 seconds. Democrats going to keep the Senate? Yeah.
Is that telling enough?
That's a fair enough answer.
All right.
That's a fair enough answer. All right. Sarah Mims from the National Journal, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. Follow her on Twitter at Sarah M. Mims. It's 2 M's before the I on both sides, and online at nationaljournal.com. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, see
Thanks so much. Stick around. Lots more show coming up. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, what do you say, friends and neighbors? Good to see you today. I want to take a little time out from the news of the day to talk about something very, very, very important. And we've got for you today, well, you've heard all about the Ice Bucket Challenge, right? That the most successful fundraising effort, I think, ever in history to raise money to find a cure for that dreadful disease, ALS. Well, we've got something a little different than the Ice Bucket Challenge and maybe a little more comforting. It's not the Ice Bucket Challenge today. It's the Coffee Challenge, yeah. And we also want the Coffee Challenge, to raise money for Free Speech TV to be the most successful fundraising effort ever for Free Speech TV, especially here on the Bill Press program. Now, this is so much easier. You don't have to get all a bucket of ice water over your head. You don't even, of course, you don't have to have hot coffee poured over your head. Here's how it works. You help us at Free Speech TV, and we will send you tons of coffee to enjoy, depending on how much you can help, of course. Now, I don't have to tell you why we need your help. Free Speech TV, the only truly independent cable television network out there at all, and the only truly progressive television network out there. And the only way we can stay independent is no government money, no corporate money, no foundation money. It is all just your donations that keep us going. And look what you get for your dollar. You get this great lineup of progressive hosts every day, me and Tom Hartman, Stephanie Miller, Amy Goodman, and others all day long. bringing you the news of the day with our commentary, our insights, and of course, your calls and your comments as well. So for the coffee challenge, if you can help us with just $10 a month, $120, we'll send you a pound of coffee and a Bill Press mug. If you can help us with $240 or just $20 a month, we'll send you that mug and a pound of coffee and a French press. How about it? To put it all together. For $30 a month, $360, the mug, the coffee, the French press, of course, and something very, very special, you'll be part of what we're calling Voice of the People. You and I will have a 5-minute telephone conversation. We'll record all those telephone conversations of people at the $360 level. We'll put them together and play them on the air, your chance to become a national celebrity with me here on The Bill Press Show. That's for $30 a month or $360. And, of course, if you have the means and are willing to send $1,000 to Free Speech TV, God bless you. You make your way to Washington. Carol and I will take you out to dinner and invite you into the studio the next morning to watch the show. Help us as much as you can. Join the Coffee Challenge at 1-877-378-8669 or go to our website, freespeech.org. All of us here at Free Speech need your help, and thank you for your help.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment and the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
33 minutes past the hour on this Thursday, September 18th. So happy it's Thursday. My name is Peter Ogburn here, hosting the show. So, if you're just tuning in, I got a very last-minute alert from Mr. Press that he was ill. He'd been up all night ill. So he needed someone to host the show for him. So here I am, ladies and gentlemen. Your knight in shining armor.
Saving the day, as usual.
Yeah, right. So look, we're now back up on TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV, TAWKR. We're also streaming live audio on the TuneIn app on the Progressive Voices channel. And again, ladies and gentlemen, we need your help to do the show. And especially in this segment, because we're going to be talking about something everybody is familiar with. People say baseball is America's pastime. I'd say football is now America's pastime. More people watch it, that's for sure. Past couple of weeks, we've been talking a lot about sports. But we're not talking box scores. We're not talking statistics. We're talking about domestic violence, child abuse, and general bad behavior coming out of the National Football League. It all began a couple of months ago with Ray Rice when we saw the video of the aftermath of his wife being knocked out in an elevator and him dragging her by her hair out of the elevator. And then a couple of weeks ago, we saw the tape of what happened inside the elevator, and it was worse than anybody actually thought it was. He punched her with a closed fist, knocked her into a railing, knocked her unconscious, and then proceeded to drag her out of the elevator by her hair. He kicked her out of the way at one point. Just a brutal, brutal video that any man could have that type of relationship with his woman. That's how he treats her. The NFL suspended Rice for 2 games, which most people agree was not enough. And then it just sort of snowballed into where the Vikings deactivated him and The NFL suspended him, so he is not playing. Did I say the Vikings? I meant the Ravens. I meant the Ravens. He plays for the Baltimore Ravens. Oh, but the Vikings don't get off the hook because they got a problem of their own. Adrian Peterson, you can make the argument he's the best running back in the NFL. Certainly one of the most high-profile players in the NFL. Turns out he had abused a child so badly that he was arrested for child abuse. Turns out it wasn't the only one. He had also abused another child a couple years ago. Left a scar on the child's head. He beat the kid so badly. So then there was the decision after he had been charged that he was going to suit up and he was going to play. In the middle of all this, he was going to suit up and he was going to play. And I think Americans said that we got to do something about this. Started talking about it, started having the conversation. NFL didn't care. We're going to keep on keeping on. We're going to do this. It's the right thing. Due process is the word. Due process. It's what a lot of teams hid behind. But then, what's the phrase? Money talks and BS walks. All of a sudden, you've got these sponsors coming out saying something's got to be done about this. The child abuse, the violence against women. Anheuser-Busch put out a statement. Radisson Hotels, who were big sponsors of the Vikings, when the Vikings had the disaster of a press conference earlier this week, they had a big old Vikings backdrop behind them, and that sponsor, Radisson, right behind the guy as he's giving this tire fire of a press conference, just awful. So now Radisson is in the mix. They said, nope, we're not gonna sponsor the Vikings anymore. We're out. Remarkably, Nike is putting its sponsorship with Adrian Peterson on hold. Now, if you know anything about Nike and sports, you know that Nike stays with their athletes through thick and thin, through scandal. Anything that happens, Nike doesn't abandon ship. Nike abandoned ship. So, look at there. Now the NFL starts losing money. Holy cow, now we have to pay attention. What are we going to do? Well, they put Adrian Peterson on what's called the exempt list, which means he is now banned from team activities. Oh, by the way, didn't even mention Greg Hardy and Ray McDonald of the Panthers and the 49ers, who are both been arrested for domestic violence. So you've got all these cases going on, and the NFL refuses to just do the right thing. Chris Carter said what a lot of us were thinking when he said, these guys don't care about women. They don't care about children. They don't even care about money. They care about being on the field. Take them off the field. Take them off the field. So my question, I got a couple of questions for you. 866-55-PRESS. Like I said, I can't do this show without you. 866-55-PRESS. Is it right to take these guys off the field before they're convicted? Adrian Peterson hasn't been convicted of anything. Should he have to come off the field? I say yes. I say absolutely yes. What's your take? 866-55-PRESS. The other question is, and I started thinking about this last night when the news broke that the Arizona Cardinals running back, Jonathan Dwyer, was arrested for domestic violence. He beat a 27-year-old woman and assaulted an 18-month-old child. So he's been arrested. So the other question is, can you watch the NFL? Should you watch the NFL? I would say everybody does. It's the most watched sporting event in America, without a doubt. Can you watch it? I got to tell you, and I'm not someone who watches a ton of NFL football, but I watch. It's on Sundays. I have legendary Super Bowl parties, as you may have heard. But I can't. It's too much when they talk so much about these guys and their actions off the field and their violence against women and children. I just can't square that with tuning in, and sitting down, and watching these teams beat the crap out of each other. I can't square it. Doesn't work for me. 866-55-PRESS. And I know that not everybody in the NFL is a bad guy, and I don't want to say that. A lot of good guys in the NFL. Long careers, good work. But my biggest problem is you've got these owners and this commissioner and Roger Goodell who harbor this unhealthy arrangement in the NFL that these guys are above the law. Beat a woman? We got your back. We'll let you play. And by the way, just because Ray Rice was sat down, he almost played. He almost served a 2-game suspension for knocking a woman unconscious, dragging her by her hair, and kicking her. He almost, if the NFL had their way, he would have played. Sat out 2 games, he would have been back on the field. But the outcry was finally got to them, and the loss of money finally got to them. But they have no morals on this issue. They were ready to let him go. Adrian Peterson was about to suit up and play. He was going to miss 1 game. He was going to suit up and play until the sponsor spoke up this week. He was going to be on the field. So these guys don't know how to do the right thing. And look, if I don't watch football, is the NFL going to feel it? Probably not. But I have a really hard time sitting down and watching football with my kids when all they talk about, the new statistics line, right, instead of how many yards or how many tackles or sacks, is what's the bond? What's their bail? How many years do they face? That's all they're talking about. Got a couple of comments earlier in the day when we were talking about this. Jessica weighs in. Says, for me, it's full of good memories. Sunday afternoon football with the family, and I want to have that with my daughter. But they're ruining it for me. That's exactly how I feel. It's exactly how I feel. I want to have those memories, but I don't feel like I can have that. Doris weighed in, said spousal abuse, child abuse. Why have we never talked more about this before? And that's a very good point. There's no point in hiding this and covering it up and not talking about it and protecting these brutalizers. Call them out. Sit them down, take away some of their money. Don't watch. 866-55-PRESS is our phone number, 866-557-7377. Can you watch NFL football? And should these players be sat down even though they haven't been convicted? I say yes, but what do I know? I want to hear from you. 866-55-PRESS. My name is Peter Ogburn. Hosting the show today while Bill is out, taking your calls after a quick break. Come right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, friends and neighbors, take a little time out now for just a word about Free Speech TV, how important it is, and how much we depend on your help. You know, I hate to tell you this, but I've been around this radio and television business for a long time now, starting out with KABC TV in Los Angeles and KABC Talk Radio, moving on the radio front over to KFI Radio, and on TV over to KCOP Radio, and then bouncing back here to Washington, D.C., 6 years on CNN at Crossfire, and then a couple of years at MSNBC with Pat Buchanan on Buchanan and Press, and then Current TV, of course, covering and carrying our nationally syndicated radio show on a simulcast. But I got to tell you, with all of those different great organizations I've worked for, I have never felt that so totally free and so totally independent in terms of broadcasting the news of the day as I do here on Free Speech TV, because Free Speech TV, that's what it is. I mean, it's a progressive voice channel, 24/7, totally independent. As you know, no government funding and no corporate funding and no big donor pressure at all. Totally independent. And how do we do it? Well, that's thanks to you and to your support. We couldn't do without it. And that's why we turn to you once or twice a year to ask you to first of all, to thank you for being so generous, and then to ask you to help out again as much as you can. And there's some premiums that we can offer this time around, maybe to make it more attractive for you to dig in and help us out. If you can help us with just $10 a month, $120 a year, we'll send you a Bill Press mug and a pound of coffee. For $240, that mug, that coffee, and a French press. That's just $20 a month. For $30 a month, $360 a year, a mug, a coffee, the French press, and you'll participate in what we're calling Voices of the People. You and I will have a 5-minute phone conversation about whatever issue you want to talk about or issues you want to talk about, and we'll put all those together and we'll air them on our show as Voices of the People. You can be part of that. And if somehow you can make your way to Washington, D.C. and send $1,000 to Free Speech TV, make your way to Washington, Carol and I will take you out to dinner and bring you into the studio the next morning to watch the show. However, whatever level you can help out, please give us a call at 877-378-8669 or go to the website freespeech.org. Help as much as you can, and thank you for being so generous and allowing us to do a great job with you every day.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
It is the Bill Press Show. Good morning. 40 minutes past the hour. Thursday, September 18th. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill. Thank you for being there. Like I said, I cannot do this show without you. I have to have your phone calls. 866-55-PRESS, 865-557-7377. We're talking about the NFL, and I threw out a couple of questions. Can you watch the NFL anymore? Number one. And do you think that the NFL should be benching and sitting down and deactivating these players who are beating their women, their children, before they're convicted? That's the question. Because they haven't been convicted, but it's pretty damn convincing. 866-55-PRESS. Don in Chicago, Illinois, listening on WCPT. Don, good morning.
Good morning.
What's your take?
Well, when we talk about whether we should bench him, the answer is yes. The NFL brands itself as family entertainment, and these players are representatives of that organization. Whatever you support, as you know, that your employees do on and off the field, reflects your brand. That's the bottom line. And if they are allowing child abusers or domestic batterers, or even in Ben Roethlisberger's case, charged with a sexual crime, if you allow them to play on the field, basically you're endorsing their behavior. When you talk about due process, that's a legal term.
Yeah.
And they can deal with that in the court system. But from a collective bargaining standpoint, as long as you're compensating them, I don't think they have an argument.
And also, that's a good point, Don. I think that's a very good point. And I also think part of the issue, like especially in Adrian Peterson's case, he owns up to the fact that he beat his child. He says, that's how I was raised. That's how I'm going to raise my kids. I was beat when I was a kid. This is what I know. So I'm going to beat my kids. And it doesn't seem like he's ashamed or embarrassed or feels bad about it. He thinks this is okay. Court case or no court case, that's wrong. 866-55-PRESS. Kelly in Ithaca, New York.
Hi.
Hey now.
I just have to say that I do inherently believe in innocent until proven guilty, and that ultimately, I guess it is the employer's decision what they want to do with an employee once they find out that they have charges against them. So the benching is really kind of up to the NFL, and I kind of leave it at that. But I wanted to comment on how you said, how can I watch football with my daughter? Because I love football, and I watch it with my daughter. But some of the inherent qualities of football players, which kind of make them who they are, is their warrior, crazy beast nature. I mean, to do what they do every day and to succeed at that sport. I mean, the athleticism, they're kind of a subset of our population, if you will, that may have more testosterone in them. It doesn't mean that it justifies any of their behavior outside of the field, because not all of them are guilty of these situations. But I have had conversations with my daughter, like, look at these men. They are like, if you were standing next to them, they're kind of like, they're like the warriors of our society.
I think that's a smart point, Kelly, and I appreciate that. But I agree with everything you said, and I do want to be able to sit down with my kids. Like when we watched some of the World Cup, they were just going, how can they run that far, that fast, for that long? Right? Like, I want them to see what athleticism looks like. I want them to strive to be athletic if that's what they want to do. But this whole macho, beating on the chest, roided out culture, yeah, I'm not okay with that. Sarah, Ithaca, New York.
Yeah, my point is that I feel like it's great that this is a conversation that's being brought up because the NFL is so recognizable, but it's really unfair to sort of put the NFL in the accountability frame because no other employer is holding their employees accountable when domestic violence and child abuse happen. It happens all over the place. I myself was in a domestic violence situation, and it was up to me to take care of myself and to get out of it. No employer was holding my abuser accountable.
Sarah, that is a great point. And I'm sorry to hear that you were in a situation like that, and I'm sorry that it wasn't given the attention that some of the ones in the NFL was given. And you're right. We should treat domestic abuse and spousal abuse way more seriously in this country. But I do think that when you have something like the NFL, it gives the opportunity to teach. It gives the opportunity to point it out in a way that more people will see it. Doesn't mean that that's right, but that's just how it's happening. But that's a great call. Alan in Chicago, one quick last call. Go ahead, Alan, quick.
Yeah, I watch football because I love football. And I'm a firm believer in you're innocent until proven guilty. And let's just say one of them football players that you take out of playing football because he was charged with it gets found innocent. What are the repercussions then?
Alan, I'm going to need you to put on some oven mitts for that hot take, my friend. That is the hottest of takes this morning. No, that's a dumb take. Look, Adrian Peterson has said that he beat his kid. He stands by it. So what is he going to do? He's going to go fight it in court? Good luck. And if he beats it, the charges, so what? He's still a child abuser. 54 minutes past the hour. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, friends and neighbors, take a little time out now for just a word about Free Speech TV, how important it is, and how much we depend on your help. You know, I hate to tell you this, but I've been around this radio and television business for a long time now, starting out with KABC TV in Los Angeles and KABC Talk Radio, moving on the radio front over to KFI Radio, on TV over to KCOP Radio, and then bouncing back here to Washington, D.C., 6 years on CNN at Crossfire, and then a couple of years at MSNBC with Pat Buchanan on Buchanan and Press, and then Current TV, of course, covering and carrying our nationally syndicated radio show on a simulcast. But I got to tell you, with all of those different great organizations I've worked for, I have never felt that so totally free and so totally independent in terms of broadcasting the news of the day as I do here on Free Speech TV, because Free Speech TV, that's what it is. I mean, it's a progressive voice channel, 24/7, totally independent. As you know, no government funding and no corporate funding and no big donor pressure at all. Totally independent. And how do we do it? Well, that's thanks to you and to your support. We couldn't do without it. And that's why we turn to you once or twice a year to ask you to first of all, to thank you for being so generous, and then to ask you to help out again as much as you can. And there's some premiums that we can offer this time around, maybe to make it more attractive for you to dig in and help us out. If you can help us with just $10 a month, $120 a year, we'll send you a Bill Press mug and a pound of coffee. For $240, that mug, that coffee, and a French press. That's just $20 a month. For $30 a month, $360 a year, a mug, a coffee, the French press, and you'll participate in what we're calling Voices of the People. You and I will have a 5-minute phone conversation about whatever issue you want to talk about or issues you want to talk about, and we'll put all those together and we'll air them on our show as Voices of the People. You can be part of that. And if somehow you can make your way to Washington, D.C. and send $1,000 to Free Speech TV, make your way to Washington, Carol and I will take you out to dinner and bring you into the studio the next morning to watch the show. However, whatever level you can help out, please give us a call at 877-378-8669 or go to the website freespeech.org. Help as much as you can, and thank you for being so generous and allowing us to do a great job with you every day.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is the Bill Press Show. Peter Ogburn sitting in for Bill Press today. What's the president up to today? Well, they had the congressional picnic last night. So this morning, 10 a.m., the president receives the presidential daily briefing. Then there's an ambassador credentialing ceremony at 10:45. And then at 2 o'clock, he holds a bilateral meeting with President Poroshenko from the Ukraine, which Biden will also attend. And at 3:55, the president attends a DNC roundtable. 12:30 today is the press briefing by Press Secretary Josh Earnest. I don't think Bill will be there after he was out today being ill. Normally he's there, and always some good stuff that comes out of there. All right, hot third hour coming up. Congressman Mark Pocan and BuzzFeed's Kate Nocera. Tune in now, youtube.com/TawkrTV.
This is the Bill Press Show.
James West here reporting from Houston, Texas for Climate Desk. Now, one of the biggest uncertainties in climate science right now is the role of clouds. What better way to work that part out than flying right through them? That's what NASA scientists aboard this airplane think. Welcome to NASA's biggest airborne laboratory. You're coming with us today on an 8-hour NASA flight mission.
When you read these big IPCC climate assessments, what's the biggest uncertainty? There's two, right? The role of aerosols and clouds. Clouds is probably bigger than aerosols.
That is a piece of a puzzle that right now we are missing.
You can't get the models right if you don't understand the chemistry and the process.
Now we're being told we've got to get on. The doors are about to shut, so let's go aboard. Every time you turn on the weather, every time you hear a climate change prediction, that information has to come from somewhere. And it starts by getting sucked out of the air from planes like this.
So this mission is to try to understand the emissions from the surface, so mostly biogenic emissions. So from trees and other plants,
right now we're flying to our very first part of this experiment on the DC-8. Over Arkansas, there's a particularly pungent bouquet of emissions that scientists are interested in measuring.
Well, these emissions lead to both aerosols and to molecules that both destroy and create ozone. So these are very important things to understand for climate studies.
How it will manifest itself, it will be in more accurate and more reliable predictions.
So what we're doing is taking a series of flyovers, each at a different level of the atmosphere, scooping up those emissions, testing them, and hopefully scientists are going to see exactly what's in this column of air all the way up.
The data that we collect in one flight can keep busy 60 scientists and students for 3 years, 4 years. We're still studying data from data collected 20 years ago.
In fact, this particular mission today is its most heavily equipped in its nearly 30 years of service. Each one of these consoles here is a specially equipped scientific instrument designed to collect all sorts of different data in real time.
And this instrument here tracks the sun.
We're looking at mist chambers. They're used to strip soluble gases.
This black line is the CO2. It's about 390 ppm right now.
We're putting these filters in the bags and we've got the aerosols that we trapped out of a certain amount of air. And so we're sampling up here about 150 liters a minute.
That ultimately flows back into the operational models. It flows back into what goes on TV every day.
Anyway, I got to get this sample going.
You do it. It's a busy man at work. We can't let him rest. Well, get this. We've just spent 2 hours crisscrossing this one cloud formation. In, back out again, back in again.
Then they grow, and we track them as long as we can, and then we let it go.
Even one cloud can hold a host of answers to the mysteries of climate change.
The patterns of, where the clouds are, what type of clouds we see, what kind of weather systems they're associated with it, that'll all be shifting in a shifting climate, in a world with climate change.
Then the big spark is this, is when we actually get the meat on the grill. And then it will be some time to process it.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight, it's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies.
In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
your TV and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Yes, it is the Bill Press Show on this Thursday, September 18th. Clearly, I am not Bill Press. My name is Peter Ogburn. I'm sitting in for Bill today. Got a very last-minute call that Bill's feeling a little under the weather this morning. Everything's fine. He just is a little worse for wear, so we're going to let him stay home, rest, feel a little bit better. I'm sure he'll be back in fighting shape tomorrow. So for now, you're stuck with me. Running the board is Elisa Murphy. Elisa, good morning.
Hey, good morning. Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday. Thank you for being here. Our phone number, write this down, take this down, remember it. 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. Give us a call, and if you do, you will talk to Alicia Cruz, who is standing by, ready to take your calls. And if you are watching us on Free Speech TV or on TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV, you are doing so because of the great work of Cyprian Bolding, who is here representing the Washington Nationals today, wearing the NL East champion Washington Nationals hat. Cyprian is there, keeping us on the air. Now, we are a lot of guests when they heard that I was filling in. They took off, man. They ran. They couldn't deal with the backup team. Here we've got Congressman Mark Pocan from Wisconsin 2nd District. He came in, so I applaud you for that, for coming in with the JV team.
Well, Peter, I was just saying, this is the program I listen to when I go back home. You just had John Nichols from Wisconsin on. I mean, we're here no matter what. I love it. We're sturdy people in Wisconsin, and we wish Bill a speedy recovery.
This is like Southern Wisconsin here in the Bill Press Studios. Yeah. Although John Nichols, we talked to, he was in Scotland this morning.
I know. John is an amazing guy. I've known him for 20 years, and he's always wherever the activities are going on.
Yeah, he has that quality.
Yeah.
we usually talk to the Nation on Thursdays, and with the time change and everything, the early slot usually doesn't work for John. No, he's in Scotland, so it's gonna work. So all right, great, let's do that. All right, Congressman, let me ask, did you go to the picnic last night at the White House?
I hate to say it, but I did not.
You didn't?
We had a bunch of folks in from Wisconsin. There was an event last night, and my constituents come first, and I was there, and I spent the time with my constituents. So no offense to the president, but what matters most to me is people back in Wisconsin, and they had a bunch of them out here.
I think that's the right answer, and I think you probably had a better time. I saw some of the faces from the pool report last night. Steve Dennis was doing the pool report. Just a couple of faces of, they're just sort of in that little square, and tensions are kind of high. It's just kind of so.
Well, I had a great time with people from Wisconsin here.
Good.
A bunch of folks flew out here, and probably had a couple hundred people out here. So
all right. Well, let's get right into the news of the day, and that is that Congress has authorized the arming, the training of Syrian rebels. John Kerry yesterday was speaking. I want to play this clip because Code Pink showed up to protest, we probably could have expected them to do that. John Kerry made an interesting point when this happened. Let's play that clip when they started protesting.
Code Pink was started by a woman and women who were opposed to war, but who also thought that the government's job was to take care of people and to give them health care and education and good jobs. And if that's what you believe in, and I believe it is, then you ought to care about fighting ISIL.
So it sort of turned it around a little bit on it. But, look, I don't know that I 100% agree with what he said there, but I do like the back and forth. It's not just cart them out and
right.
Let's move on. I like that he engaged them a little bit.
Well, I don't think anyone questions the motives of this administration and what they're trying to do with this. I think the vote for many of us who voted against authorizing this was the more briefings we went to, we didn't get more answers. We actually had more questions. And what we looked at was this was just starting to look a lot like I think things that we've seen in the past. Twice in my lifetime, we know that sequels are never as good. Trilogies are often worse. And this was just starting to look a little bit like that, and we couldn't get some of the answers that we would have liked to. I think if they had waited 2 more weeks, actually, and got a little more of the information that they had promised they would have, but it was starting to look a little bit like the fast track debate, where trust us, we've got this one, and I do trust this administration, but I also have to ask some of the big questions when it comes under congressional authorization, and we just weren't getting those answers.
It's so refreshing to hear you say that because, look, you know where we come from politically on this show, but I think that there are still a lot of questions. We trust that the president will not put us into another quagmire. We trust that the president will put us into an extended, long slog, but we're going to war.
Yeah. Well,
ask the questions before you go to war. Don't ask the questions later. Ask them before.
Yeah, and I think one of the questions we really couldn't get the answer for that we needed to is, what does the end look like?
Right.
I mean, I don't want the George Bush end of putting on a military uniform and flying in on an aircraft carrier and having a big banner that says "Mission Accomplished" behind you, because there was no mission accomplished. And clearly, I think it was because of the Bush administration. That's one of the things we really have to keep in mind, is why we're in this quagmire, right? I mean, it's because of that we're trying to unbury, and this president and this administration is trying to unbury us. The problem is we don't have partners on the ground from the region. Some of the players that we're trying to train are interesting. We don't have BFFs in this region, and to try to think that we're going to. We had a lot of questions that couldn't quite get answered, and I think ultimately, without having a big buy-in from the region and the questions that we still had about what does this look like to end, and being told by some people that I respect and trust that this wasn't nearly enough to accomplish what they thought, suddenly it was looking like a down payment on a different purchase. And that's why we wanted to have that debate on the purchase, and we didn't quite get there.
We heard a clip earlier this week where they were talking about how this process of getting them trained and armed could take up to a year. And so you look at it that way, and you realize that after that year, it's still not going to be resolved. That's when it really gets serious. That this is going to be going on for the presidential election in 2016. So this is not a quick thing. How did we get to, because it wasn't that long ago that we were talking about Syria and airstrikes in Syria against Assad.
Right.
And there was an outcry. American people didn't want that.
Absolutely. It was strong.
Lawmakers weighed in.
Yeah.
We don't want that. And it seems like the case now isn't even as strong as that one, and American people seem to be mostly for this.
The difference, I think, was the 2 beheadings by ISIL, but at the same time, ISIL did those very public beheadings for a reason. They wanted to get a provocation from us. They wanted something, and I'm afraid in some ways some of the questions we had is, are we exactly giving them what they wanted?
There seems to be a lot of, come and get us, we want this fight.
Because this is their organizing tool down on the ground. Because, again, we don't have the fronts on the ground. It's a complex region. This is a fight among different religious entities within the countries of that region. And for us to try to come in and be the leads on this once again, I mean, just a lot of us had a lot of operational questions on whether or not this was going to accomplish what it was supposed to. And I remember when the first beheading happened, my first reaction was, you don't do that unless you're they wanted to provoke us to get some sort of reaction. And I didn't see that as enough of a part of this debate about, what was the real strategy behind this. And there's no question, this is a really terrible terrorist organization with some resources, so they're real, but there is no direct threat to the homeland.
That's what I wanted to hit on.
Yeah.
I wanted to hit on that because you're right, they are very dangerous. They seem very organized. They seem very, very capable of recruiting. When you have people leaving the United States and going to join them, you know that they've got their act together on that front.
Right.
How big of a threat are they to the homeland?
Well, and that's the thing. We asked many of those point-blank questions, and without going into maybe some of the details that I can't from different briefings, there was none. And even when the question was asked a week later, there was I thought, incredibly weak response on that one. And there's no question that they may be capable of something, but there certainly is no indication there were any plans to do that. And by us going there, we may be doing just that and making ourselves a target. What I fear is that as we're doing these airstrikes and we know that they've had the ability to take out planes through the type of weaponry they have, that if that happens, obviously, we're not going to be sitting back. That just escalated the situation, right? And there's just so many things out there that show me there's escalation points that we didn't necessarily have to get in.
That we walked into.
Exactly.
Willingly. Think about that for a moment, if you're listening and watching. Think about that for a moment, that they want us to take that war to them, and they don't pose a great threat to the homeland. And yet here we are giving them exactly what they want. It's terrifying. And you think we've learned so much. Never. We after the Iraq War, we can't let this happen again. We've got to ask the questions, and it seems like a lot of the questions are being asked, but we're not getting the answers. But that doesn't seem to matter.
Yeah, and as we did ask questions too, I watched answers evolve. So we have we're going to have almost 1,600 people in the country. We've been doing over 160 bombings. General Dempsey said we need boots on the ground.
Boots on the ground.
All those things to me start looking a lot more like a war, which would definitely fall under the jurisdiction of Congress having a say. And I think that was the problem. A lot of people thought we should have a much more full debate than we were actually having on this. And had they waited 2 weeks and had they made the case that they were bringing in the partners they said, although I think in the region they weren't bringing in the partners on the ground as they thought they could, they might have had a stronger vote and given us some strong reasons. But at this point, I just know, as I talked to members, the most frequent response that I heard, at least on the Democratic side, was the more briefings we went to, the more likely they were to vote no.
I don't want to make the comparison between Barack Obama and George W. Bush, but when I hear the talk of a broad coalition, which is the phrasing that the Obama administration is using, I hear coalition of the willing. When I hear talking about training and arming the Syrian rebels, I hear when they stand up, we'll stand down, which is what Bush said. We began this whole thing with, what was it, 300 people that we were sending over there? We didn't even call them troops, advisors, we called them, 300 advisors. And now, it's like you said, boots on the ground, no boots. The president even yesterday said again, we're not going to, you have the no boots on the ground. This is the president yesterday.
We'll use our air power. We will train and equip our partners. We will advise them and we will assist them. We will lead a broad coalition of countries who have a stake in this fight, because this is not simply America versus ISIL. This is the people of the region fighting against ISIL. It is the world rejecting the brutality of ISIL.
It's a little bit of deja vu, I hate to say it.
Well, and a boot in a plane above the ground is still pretty close to a boot on the ground. Now, let me say this, though. I truly believe the intentions are completely different than when George W. Bush did this. I think there was some payback for his father. I think there was some motives and bad or manufactured intelligence that put us in a very, very bad spot that we're paying for to this day. $1.7 trillion later, at least minimum, plus other costs. I think the intentions are very different because we're trying to fix something that's completely broken, that it was broken because of the Bush administration. So I don't fault this president at all on his intentions. I just think that if my job was to look at this, what they've given us after going to multiple briefings and being very, very earnest and taking a look at this, there's just no way that I could, at this point, say this was, I thought, the best way of handling this.
Yeah. Well put. 866-55-PRESS is our phone number, 866-557-7377. Let's take a quick break, just a quick break, and then we'll come back. Get your calls in if you have a call for us, for me, and the Congressman Mark Pocan from Wisconsin. Give us a call, 866-55-PRESS. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press. We'll be right back. Quick break here on the Bill Press Show.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork, loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help help you, because no one
Teach your kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Change the world.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
It is the Bill Press Show. Peter Ogburn sitting in for Bill Press today, along with Congressman Mark Pocan, who is in the studio with us from Wisconsin. Thank you for being here. Our big affiliate up there, 92.1 The Mic in Madison. We're proud to be on that station. Congressman, I just saw this come across in my email. I just saw that Governor Chris Christie is going to be traveling to Wisconsin later on this month. He's going to be campaigning with Scott Walker for governor. How is that whole campaign going up there with the governor? You're a great governor.
Man, I think they're flying him out there to make Scott Walker look better by comparison or something. But I tell you, it's a race that every poll has been a statistical dead heat with Mary Burke. She's been an outstanding Democrat candidate. Someone who, with Trek Bicycle, was part of that family. She was our Commerce Secretary. And she's a very philanthropic person who's even got elected to the Madison School Board because she cares so much about education education is an issue, something that we need to really deal with in Wisconsin. And Scott Walker, I've served under 4 governors when I was in the legislature, and there is no question Scott Walker has stood out among all of them, Democrat and Republican, for really his self-ambition to be president above anything else. So he's used us. He's used the state of Wisconsin in his quest to be president, and there's just everything he's done has been kind of an arrogance in dealing with the public. Whether it be when he lied to the public about the need to fix the budget to deal with collective bargaining, and then he destroyed workers' rights to have a voice in Wisconsin, to his promise to create 250,000 jobs, and he's done nothing because he's been traveling around the country running for president. We've been collecting those records, and we're going to release those soon, and I'll tell you, people are going to see exactly what we had, our worst fears could have possibly been, in how much he's had a disregard for Wisconsin.
I can't wait to have you back on to talk about those. It's when you talk about he used Wisconsin to get to the White House, I think that these days, that type of behavior is a real problem. I think this is what happened to Eric Cantor. Give me a break. Eric Cantor got voted out because he was too moderate. Right. Give me a break. Give me a break. Did anybody think of Eric Cantor as the congressman from Virginia? No, especially not the people in his district. So I think that when people see that you're leaving your home state or your home district behind for bigger ambitions, I think that'll get you. And if that's what Scott Walker's doing, the people of Wisconsin will see it. That'll be a real problem.
And there's no question. And he's got a really bad record as governor, but it's only that bad because he's not put really any real effort or attention into it. He's gone to Iowa multiple times. He goes to every primary state all across the country. He goes to hug Sheldon Adelson. He does all this sort of stuff in his quest for the presidency. And we've got real problems in Wisconsin. We've been lagging around our entire region for creating jobs. And this is exactly where Mary Burke's best strengths are in this area. So where, the rest of the economy is slowly coming back, we've had a little bit of a harder time in Wisconsin. And people from the upper Midwest, specifically Wisconsin, are fundamentally nice, decent, hardworking people. And if you're not doing the job that you got elected to do, people don't like that. And you're under your second John Doe investigation. Not your first John Doe, but you're already under your second John Doe. And then it turned out with some of the emails that have been released through open records by the 7th Circuit that he lied to the public about what he was up to. None of that passes the smell test. And I think people are going to eventually have the attitude in a nice, passive-aggressive way that we deal with things sometimes in Wisconsin and say, well, if you really want to run for president, look, we'll let you do it full time.
Yeah, good. That's good. I love it. All right, Congressman Mark Pocan from Wisconsin, thank you so much for coming in. I really
Peter,
appreciate
absolutely.
it.
Thank you.
And next time you come in, Bill's going to be here. Don't worry.
No problem. Appreciate it.
More coming up here on the Bill Press Show. BuzzFeed's Kate Nocera is in studio. Again, my name is Peter Ogburn. I'm sitting in for Bill today. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with more. Stay tuned.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
Yes, it is the Bill Press Show, 33 minutes past the hour. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. As you can tell, I'm not Bill Press. It's been a morning.
I know.
Thursday, September 8th. So happy it's Thursday.
It's
S-H-I
the 18th,
Thursday.
actually.
Yeah. What?
It's the 18th.
What did I say?
The 8th.
Did I say the 8th?
Yeah, it's the 18th.
Forget it.
It's been a long morning.
Look, here's the deal. Hang on. No. So as Elisa and the rest of the people here know, I'm not going to be here tomorrow.
Right.
I'm leaving right after the show.
Okay.
I'm going on a little road trip, which I never do.
Right.
But I'm going to be out of town. I'm going to North Carolina. I got a thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to see a concert.
Sounds awesome.
Right. I'm all excited. So I'm packing last night, get my stuff together, right? May have been up too late, having stuff to drink.
Mm-hmm.
And so this morning I wake up and I'm thinking, no big deal. I just sit over there and I coast.
Right.
Right? Bill's
Just look at your internet.
I look at my internet. I do the tweets.
Right.
I do my stories. I'm good. I'm on autopilot. Text early this morning from Bill. Not feeling good. He was up all night. Sick.
Just not feeling well.
He's not feeling well, so he's going to stay home.
Okay.
Which is fine. So great. I'm not prepped to host the show at all. So then I come in. We've got no internet. Kate, none of the internet is working.
I know.
So I have to get on the phone. I'm sitting in this chair, like as we're getting ready to start the program. What? Like 3 minutes before we go on
Like
air.
2 minutes.
2 minutes
right
before
before.
we're going on. I'm sitting here. I had to tell the guy from Comcast, the worst company in America, by the way.
So true.
They are the worst.
They're really terrible.
You know what his answer was? He goes, yeah, there's an internet outage in your area. You ever have an internet outage? You either have internet or you don't. How does the internet go out? It's not like satellite TV.
I don't know. I don't know how these things work.
I'm not yelling at you.
Well, you're so close to being done.
I know. I'm right there.
You're really right there.
And I'm so
And
done.
it's me. I'm here now. So you get to spend the next half an hour with me.
Do you know... Mark Pocan is a great guest, but when I realized I had to interview a member of Congress today, I was like, oh boy.
An elected official. And look at you.
And then me. In my jean jacket, aging stoner dad. Yeah, this is going to go really well, Congressman.
You're a cool dad, Peter.
Hey. Oh, you met my kids. That's right.
I did, yeah.
Trouble.
I like
Trouble. All right. Let's get right into it.
Okay.
I want to start off first with the congressional picnic last night because we were talking to Mark Pocan. He didn't go.
Okay.
But it looked miserable. It looked like a miserable affair.
It didn't look really fun. I feel like they always have these picnics when like something really tense is happening.
Yeah.
You know,
right?
It's like, all right, let's pick the most awkward moment where we all have to stand around and pretend to like each other, and let's have a picnic then. That sounds good. And I understand these things
Kumbaya.
are planned very far in advance or whatever, but didn't they have one like during the debt ceiling?
There was a debt thing.
Yeah.
That they had, or it was the shutdown or something. Or maybe they canceled
They
one.
canceled
during
last
the
year
shutdown.
during the shutdown.
But then there was a debt thing.
It
was
a
tense.
Yep, and it was tense, and then last night with all this Syria arming the Syrian rebel votes, and people aren't happy with the president. So
we were talking to the congressman.
Yeah.
And he voted no against arming the. He said that he didn't feel like they got the answers that they needed to, go to war again, which I thought was
that's reasonable.
Reasonable. And he was saying, look, we asked a lot of questions. I think one of the takeaways from the whole Iraq war was like, we need to ask more questions before we just go off into war. And he said, we're asking the questions. We're just not getting the answers. And so instead of waiting and giving the answers and working on the answers and formulating the right response, it's kind of like, no, we got to go. We got to go. So,
and it was interesting to kind of see the breakdown of the vote yesterday. You had a lot of Republicans, a lot of Democrats, but the no vote, is really just, there are a lot more Republicans now who are just like, nope, not going to do that.
Yeah.
We're not doing this anymore. And
you had Tea Party Republicans and
super
tried and
liberals,
true Democrats. Yeah.
I mean, Boehner is like, he's a guy that on this issue, on the issue of, the president is asking for military authority to do something. Boehner is an institutionalist in the way that he believes that Congress should say yes to that. And that's just how he operates. So he was going to get his guys in line, and then, Pelosi was not going to embarrass the president.
Right.
So she got the people that she needed, and it passed.
So this will go through the Senate too, I imagine.
Today, yeah.
Yeah,
Today.
And that'll pass.
I think so. I mean, it's one of those things. It's like, I actually just don't know until it's gonna hit the floor. There are lots of people that are like, well, we should do this or we should do that, but then ultimately, they might vote for it.
In all of this, there's this whole, AUMF thing, authorized use of military force.
Right. Well, there's actually not.
Well, right. That's what I'm saying.
An AUMF.
The president is all for, like, before he was anti AUMF.
He wanted to repeal the 2000. I mean, they're using, I think, 2001, 2002 AUMF justification for why this is okay. And you talk to tons of members of Congress, and they say, we need a new AUMF. We need to, get rid of the old ones, get a new one. But, like, at the end of the day, they can say that all they want, but none of them actually want that to happen. Because then that's another vote for war that you have to take. I just don't buy it.
Right.
That everyone's like, yeah, let's get a new AUMF in place and really just go for this. It's like, I don't really think you want to. I'm skeptical you want to do that, actually.
And I've brought this up a couple times today, so if you don't like hearing about it, too bad, you can hear about it again. But, like, when we were talking about bombing Syria several months ago.
A year ago.
It was a year ago, sure. Nobody wanted to do that.
Nope.
Lawmakers didn't want to do that. American people didn't want to do that. It was, can't do that. So how did we go from not just using airstrikes to now boots on the ground?
Right.
How have we come that far that fast?
Well, all of them would say there's not boots on the ground. That would be the argument. But they're going to train the Syrian rebels to go. Anyway, I honestly, my belief, and I think if you talk to a lot of people, that the very public beheadings of James Foley,
everybody keeps bringing that up.
Like seeing that and having that sort of, penetrate everyone's mind we're a country that's like, we see that and we're like, oh, we got to get him.
Yeah, right.
We got to go get him.
But it's about revenge.
I think it is that's a huge part of it. I think there are members who would say, we've known about the ISIS threat for a while and we should have done something, and we should, the president should have been more on the ball about this. But the fact is that they were not going to get support from the American people to go in and do anything until there was that people saw how scary this was.
It's amazing to me that and again, I don't know that we should have gone into Syria or not, right, a year ago, but we saw these images of these dead kids that have been gassed in horrible, horrible images, right? But we get these videos of these two journalists, and now all of a sudden that's enough to go to war?
I don't know. I'm not
horrible
so
thing.
It was awful, and I think it was traumatizing for a lot of people. But I think that I think that once people started paying attention to ISIS, and once people started seeing kind of A, what was happening there, B, how aggressively they've taken over places, coupled with seeing Americans die, like on the internet, which it was just everywhere. That changed a lot of minds of the public.
Yeah. All right. Let's take a quick break. It's 42 minutes past the hour. My name is Peter Ogburn. I'm sitting in for Bill. Her name is Kate Nocera. She's with BuzzFeed, the Capitol Hill reporter. Follow her, by the way, on Twitter at Kate Nocera. That's Nocera with a C. Kate Nocera, and at BuzzFeed.com. All right? Take a quick break. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
What gets you into college? Good SAT scores? High GPA? Lots of extracurriculars?
Sure, but what you really need is money.
If you don't have the cash, you'll need a loan.
And we mean huge student loans, because the cost of college has risen 1,000% in the last 30 years.
This means big money for the banks that collect fees and interest.
Now, millions of young people are starting their adult lives with an average of $29,000 of loans on their backs.
Altogether, we're talking $1.2 trillion in student debt.
And more people are finding it impossible to pay them back. Welcome to the student debt crisis.
The increasing demand for higher education and cuts to state funding gave colleges a huge incentive to keep inflating prices.
I graduated about a year ago, currently in $35,000 of debt.
I am in debt about like $25,000.
I owe $23,000.
I owe over $50,000 in student loans.
38.8 million Americans owe money on a student loan.
And the biggest names in banking are making huge profits off the booming student loan industry. Sallie Mae, the largest provider of private student loans, made $949 million last year.
They only give you about 6 months to look for a job. You have to start paying back the loan. It's very pressuring, especially nowadays. It's very hard to find a job.
Over half of the students graduating in 2012 could not find a decent paying job.
They either had low-wage jobs or unpaid internships or were unemployed altogether.
So you can't make the payments. You start incurring late fees, which makes the loan even harder to pay off.
And it stays with you for years, even decades.
Right now, a third of the people who started repaying their loans are delinquent or in default.
That's 13.7 million people, more than the populations of Chicago, New York, and San Francisco combined.
Worse, it's not just the borrowers who are in trouble. Many loans require co-signers.
So if the student is unable to pay, that co-signer, a father, a mother, or a grandparent, is now on the hook.
Even a grandparent's Social Security benefits can be garnished to pay the loan.
We should have an answer to this. If you get really behind in your car payment or your credit cards, you can file for bankruptcy.
But Congress has made it nearly impossible to discharge student loans through bankruptcy.
Big institutions make big profits while students try to make ends meet under crushing debt.
Is this how we want our education system to work?
The whole point of going to college is to get the career you want, but lately that's been discouraged because no one can afford school. You get a job just to pay off your student loans.
We need higher education, not higher debt.
Sign up to end the student debt crisis at higher ed, not debt. .org.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
It is the Bill Press Show. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press. Remember, you can follow the show on Twitter at BP Show, and you can also follow me on Twitter at Peter Ogburn. I wouldn't suggest that.
You don't have to.
I wouldn't
though.
suggest that. I wouldn't follow me.
What value do
If
you
I
bring?
wasn't me, I wouldn't follow me.
Yeah.
It's not good. However, you should follow BuzzFeed's Kate Nocera, who is in studio with me for the rest of the hour, at Kate Nocera with a C, like Michael Cera.
Like Michael Cera.
Nocera.
Yeah.
Definitely follow her and read her good work at BuzzFeed.com.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so there's a story out this morning that people are talking about.
It's got a lot of buzz.
News junkies are all about this, all the buzz with this Debbie Wasserman Schultz story.
Yeah. With Politico,
What is going
Politico.
on? What is happening with Debbie Wasserman Schultz?
Yeah. Politico published this really pretty big blockbuster story yesterday about Debbie Wasserman Schultz that made a lot of claims about how little the president respects her, how she at one point had asked for clothing.
Yeesh. Yeah, for the DNC to cover some of her clothing stuff.
Which is, never great when that story comes out, whether it's legitimate or not. It was long. I mean, it was, and it was a really, really big, impactful story. I coincidentally published a story about Debbie Wasserman Schultz yesterday, but it got a little buried.
Sorry, I hate to say I missed that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Got a little buried under the Politico story, but kudos to Isaac. It was an amazing story.
So in fact, he won the day.
He did. He did win the day, I think. It was. I mean, the story is it was one of the, you read it and it's just kind of. It was actually pretty stunning at how much it looked like she was just being thrown right under the bus, in that story. Oh, well, things aren't going well for... I mean, it's literally a couple weeks before the midterms, and this horrible story about the chair of the DNC comes out. And, I don't know where all of it came from, but it certainly... certainly was the long knives were out.
It's something that that Bill mentioned way back when she was named the head of the DNC. It's a hard job to do that, and also be a congressperson.
Right.
It's you holding down both of those jobs is a rough gig.
Yeah. When I talked to Emmanuel Cleaver, who he says he's very close to her. He was like, she's a senior whip for the Democrats. Mm-hmm. She's the head of the DNC. She is a mom to a bunch of small kids. Yep. And she is a congresswoman, and she does all of that. Yeah. I mean, it is a tough gig. Sure. And, she's out there a lot, and she is very gaffe prone, and people, don't like that about her. But, activists super love her. Yeah. DNC might not like her, Obama might not like her, but activists really love her. And there was a piece in the Politico story that Obama thought about replacing her in 2012, and I was sort of wondering, why didn't he? Why?
What would the holdup be?
Right, he's the president. If he wanted a new DNC chair, he could
probably make that happen.
He could probably
swing that.
Could probably find someone to do that.
You think?
Yeah, I think so. But at the same time, she does have she is super ambitious, and a lot of people in the White House and on the Hill have sort of taken that to believe that she's really only out for herself as opposed to the Democratic Party, which is not something that the political world super appreciates.
All right, so we talked about it in the context of the midterms, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're not far away.
They're not.
How do the midterms feed into the whole ISIS vote or ISIL, whatever the hell you want to call it? How is that playing into the whole thing?
So every House member who's running for Senate, Tom Cotton, Steve Daines, I think Steve Daines, Bruce Braley, voted for the resolution yesterday.
Okay.
Double check me on Steve Daines.
Okay.
But
I'm not, but somebody will.
Someone, I'm sure the internet will call me out if I'm wrong. So, I think in the short term, like, it's not going to be a huge. So, the senators that are up in 2014, we'll see how they vote today in the Senate on this resolution. A lot of them have said we're not going to. And Republicans, at least on the Senate side, have really gone after Democrats for, being, quote unquote, asleep at the wheel on this. I think that I do think that it could potentially be effective to just have another thing to hit Democrats with. I mean, they're trying to hit them with everything, right?
Yeah.
And if you can hit them on foreign policy too, Yeah,
no, that makes sense.
Right.
Especially when there are so many close races this time around.
Close.
See, it seems like this particular cycle is a little kookier than others, right? Like there are a lot of ones that aren't even.
I can't predict.
Right.
Can't predict anything, and there's also been sort of a lack of polling in a lot of states. I don't feel like the polling's been really great. Like, how are you going to poll Alaska? Really,
Right.
Like, so I have absolutely no idea. And they're up and down. Like sometimes, like Mark Pryor's up 9, and then they're tied,
right.
and then like Tom Cotton's
what
up
is
4,
happening?
and it's like I have no idea. But I think that it's going to come down to like 1 or 2 races.
Yeah.
In the end,
Seems that way.
and
right?
like it's going to be like a 51-50 split, which is
Yeesh.
either way.
Right.
Either way is going to be a difficult thing to work with.
Yeah.
For the president, it's going to be a whole new dynamic, and which like for a reporter is kind of exciting. I've been dealing with the same makeup for the last 6 years, but
as a member of the democracy,
probably not great if for getting things done, right?
All right.
Sorry, everyone else.
BuzzFeed's Kate Nocera, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you,
with the
Peter.
backup team, the
Yeah.
JV team, we're doing what we can.
You got it.
Follow her on the Twitters at Kate Nocera and at BuzzFeed.com. My name is Peter Ogburn. I'm sitting in for Bill. We're going to take a quick break, and then I'll wrap up the show on the other side. Stick around.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
It is The Bill Press Show. My name is Peter Ogburn. One last little segment here before we end the broadcast. I am fairly certain that Bill will be back tomorrow, so make sure you tune in. You're going to have a great big Friday show tomorrow. This is a quick little interesting story that I read this morning. You know, when Air Force members take their oath, it ends with, "So help me God." Mm-hmm. Turns out the Air Force changed the instructions for the oath. They now did a little review. The Department of Defense says that now airmen or airwomen can omit the phrase. They don't have to say, "So help me God" anymore, because it's sort of, outdated. Maybe they're not Christian. Maybe they're not religious. Maybe they don't believe in God. They don't have to have them say God anymore, which I think is kind of cool. Sign of the times. We're moving forward. Good stuff. By the way, shout out to Doris Sig, who wanted to point out that I sound angry when I talk. I should. Oh no, Doris didn't say that. Someone else, Josh said that. Peter, you should smile more often. It makes you sound like an a-hole.
Oh. You're impassioned.
Look, Bill's going to be back tomorrow with a great big show. Hope you're all tuning in. We'll see you then. Have a great Thursday.
This is The Bill Press Show.